The Earnestly Speaking podcast is a show that is founded on free-flowing conversation and may at times venture into mature subjects. Listener discretion is advised.
All right, joining us here on the podcast, first time in a very long time, my man Greg Smith. Dude, recruiting analyst at Hill University. Dude, I have not spoken to you on this show. Has it been 2 years?
Man, it's been a while, yeah, because I don't know if we did anything last year. It has been a while. It's good to be back.
I dropped the ball big time last year, and I might have dropped the ball big time the year before that, too.
Maybe. I'll blame you. That's fine.
No. It's all my fault. Because I don't know, man. Greg, what's going on, bro?
Not a lot, man. Just kind of decompressing from a wild week 11 of college football action. We had a lot of good games, a lot of big games yesterday, especially early. It feels like it dropped off late, like those late games weren't very good. But the 11 o'clock and 2:30 Central window were very good.
Yeah, it's funny because, all year long I've been saying it's been a kind of a passé year. I mean, other than LSU, what they've done most of the year, or the entire year rather, nothing really to me has struck my nerve or struck any excitement to me. I mean, I guess you could say Minnesota to some degree, but it's been kind of a cake year for the most part. And then you get a couple upsets last couple of weeks, and then now this week, of course, was the biggest week thus far in college football. Of course, the big game yesterday up in Tuscaloosa, LSU and Alabama. LSU, they pulled it out. I'm not surprised they pulled it out. I did pick Alabama to win the game. I had LSU in the points, but still, to see LSU the way they won that game, Joe Burrow, how cool, collected he was. Let me ask you, Greg, because you are the college football expert even more than me. What did you learn from this game now?
Man, a couple of things, actually. And I feel like I learned this early in that first quarter, that LSU, not only were they equally talented as Alabama, and they got some dudes on that LSU team, they also came in there not afraid. And I feel like that's part of the battle, especially when you go into Tuscaloosa. I think Nick Saban has only lost there, 5 times? I think in the entire time that he's been there. So to be able to go in there and beat them, and I think one of those times that they lost was that crazy Johnny Manziel game where he had that crazy play that went on all of his Heisman highlights. Yeah. One of those Ole Miss games. So it takes a lot to beat them at home. Mm-hmm. And for LSU to go in there and not be afraid, I thought was a huge thing for them. But they looked exactly how they looked all season long, LSU did, like an explosive offense, a defense that I think is better than what it looked like against Alabama, just because Alabama has a really good offense as well, even though Tua wasn't 100% clearly, and it was trying to shake off some rust as well. But I was really impressed with that LSU team, though I still think that LSU team is the second best team in the country.
Really? So you, right now, if you ranked, did you own ranks right now, you have LSU number 2?
I would have the number 2. I still think Ohio State's the best team in the country. And maybe it's because I've seen them up close because they came to Lincoln and put a beat down on Nebraska. But man, that team, it's a couple of things with Ohio State. Ohio State obviously has always had the talent. Like their recruiting rankings have always been off the charts. Urban had them stockpiled with talent, but it feels like they're on a mission this year to prove something to people. And I don't necessarily know what it is, considering I don't think people were necessarily doubting them coming into the season. Maybe that they couldn't do it without Urban Meyer, but they have been on a mission this year. Justin Fields and Chase Young have just been killing it this season. So I've been very impressed with Ohio State. I would have them as a narrow 1 over LSU right now.
Even after yesterday. So basically you agree with the rankings last week.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I like those rankings a lot, actually. And even I actually really like the Penn State inclusion at number 4. Now, we saw what happened to them, and I'm sure we'll get to that in a second, but I liked it. And I like that Clemson was not top 4 because they haven't played a soul yet.
Right. Now, what's funny, what really shocks me is watching the game yesterday and seeing Joe Burrow, and I saw Joe Burrow last year, too, and he was average at best, obviously. And to see what he was last year, and then seeing him this year, and then seeing him in this moment against Alabama in that environment, look, the presence there. I mean, it's a big game. It's the biggest game of the year so far. Yeah. And this guy is cool, calm, collected throughout the entire game. Making big runs, making big passes. And And then, and seeing this, the entire narrative change from this guy who's just decent college quarterback to now we're talking about him being the Heisman leader and probably clinched it yesterday. And not only that, now we're hearing, people talk about him maybe being the number one pick in the draft next year.
Yeah, it's an amazing thing, his ascension over this last year. And it's weird. I hear a lot more than you would probably think about Joe Burrow around here because he has an interesting tie to Nebraska where I think his dad and his uncles or dad and brothers all played here. And Nebraska actually passed him over twice.
Wow.
Coming out of high school, they did not recruit him coming out of high school, and he wanted to come here. He goes to, a little-known school named Ohio State. Then once they have their own, top picks at quarterback, he wasn't going to get to be able to play. He's going to look to transfer, right? And there's two schools that he really looked at were LSU and Nebraska. The reason that Nebraska didn't recruit him the second time, this time under Frost, the first time was under Pelini, was because they had Adrian Martinez in the fold. At that point, he was committed. He was signed, but he hadn't played yet. And so last year, Adrian made that decision look pretty good because, like you said, Joe Burrow was fine last year, but he wasn't this. Like, he wasn't horrible.
He was solid.
He was just okay. Yeah, and last year, Adrian looked really good, and especially for a freshman, you thought that he was a preseason, had Heisman odds, right? Well, you fast forward now, and there are all sorts of questions about them making that wrong decision. So I've seen and heard of a lot about Joe Burrow over this last year, and I've been really impressed with him. You described it perfect, where he's been really cool, calm, and collected out there. He just doesn't look rattled. And if he's not going to be rattled in Tuscaloosa for a game that big, good luck trying to rattle him or catch him on an off day because he was dialed in, and those receivers are really good that he's throwing to. We don't give enough credit to that offensive line, which did a really nice job at times against that pass rush from Alabama. But Burrow is the real deal.
Yeah, you're not going to get much more bigger games than that one last night. I mean, I'm including playoff games. I mean, you're talking playoff games and national championship game, playing in Tuscaloosa in November against two teams that are in the top three in the country, you're not getting bigger than that moment, and he passed it. I'm watching that game, and think I'm crazy. I'm watching him play. I'm thinking to myself, Tom Brady. Like this the way how calm he was in the moment. Just not rattled, just playing the game as it came. He was getting pressure, in the middle from linebackers and just dumping the ball, no problem. I mean, it was just crazy to see that. I haven't seen that kind of collective fire like in such a calm way in quite a while, actually. To be honest with you.
Yeah, he's got a weird thing because you're right. It is really a cool and calm thing, and he is not rattled in the pocket. But then also when he takes off and runs, they talked about it once on the broadcast. Like he doesn't slide. He's not afraid
and that
to
worried
be
me too a
hit.
little bit too. When I'm like slide.
Yeah,
slide.
I was about to say that does worry me. Like it's one thing to do that against like Arkansas. Right, it's another thing to do that against those dudes in Tuscaloosa. So it was a little concerning to see that. But hey, he kept popping back up. But eventually, though, he's going to need to slide a little bit or duck out of bounds a couple of times.
Yeah. Now that being said, Alabama, obviously the big loss, but people. I haven't seen the AP rankings yet. How far did they fall? Not that far. Right?
They dropped to 4.
As I thought. If they win out, are they in?
If Bama wins out,
yeah.
That's going to be tough. I would still say yes because I have a hard time seeing the committee just leaving Bama out, even if they don't win the SEC. Because even if they win out and say LSU wins out, then LSU wins the SEC. If Bama doesn't even play in the SEC championship game, I think that they still get in. Like, I just have a hard time because Nick Saban's squad gets the benefit of the doubt so much. But if you're some of these other teams, like if you're Minnesota or even like Oregon or someone like that, you gotta keep taking care of your business because there is a little bit of a crack there in the door for you to kind of come through. But no, I think Alabama would make it just because they get such a benefit of the doubt.
Right. I mean, obviously Penn State losing yesterday did help some degree, at least less chaos going forward. But I mean, obviously if things play out the way they should be, you're assuming obviously LSU's a lock, you're assuming Ohio State's a lock, and then you're assuming Clemson with their easy ass schedule, that's a lock obviously too. So that leaves one spot open. Alabama probably would be the favorite to get in there, but of course you said Oregon's a team to look at. A couple of the teams you could probably consider, but I think Penn State losing yesterday made that case even stronger for Alabama. And the way they lost, it was a relatively close game. They were down big, they came back, made it interesting, and even up to the last minute, it was still a game. So I think the fact that you had two top teams like that play neck to neck, I think that made both their case. Even if LSU lost this game too, if they lost close, they'll probably will be Alabama's at number 4 probably as well in the country.
Yeah, probably. And the thing that really helps Alabama is that even though you have like a surging Minnesota team, like if Minnesota wins out to the Big Ten championship to match up with an undefeated Ohio State, the loser of that game is probably out. They don't get the benefit of the doubt that the SEC does, where the loser of the conference championship could still go in. So that also helps them. Then Alabama is just right there, ready to pounce, even though, they would have been sitting at home watching on Championship Saturday. They're still in a really good position if they just take care of their business. And they should especially also be rooting for Clemson to stub their toe, because if that happens, then they're definitely going to end up getting
of course. If I'm a Oregon fan, we'll say Oklahoma, Georgia, whatever, teams that are out to looking in, you are a big Auburn fan moving forward. Because if Auburn could beat Alabama in a few weeks in Thanksgiving weekend, then that will definitely be your opening to get in there, hopefully.
Yeah, that would definitely be huge. You're definitely rooting for Auburn to not only beat Alabama, but also continue to win their other games, so that they can, it looks even better, especially if you're a team that already beat them. Like, it would definitely be helpful to have them beat Alabama and take them out.
Now, yesterday, Minnesota, we just mentioned a while ago, Minnesota beat Penn State upset up, at home. And it's the first time for me actually getting a chance to watch this team up close this year. Really impressed. Is this team for real?
Yeah, I'm interested that was the first time that you got to watch them, to get your thoughts on them. That I've seen them, but they are for real. In part because they have a couple of really interesting things going on at the same time. They've got a huge offensive line, like you saw, so they're able to. Now, they were not running the ball well to start the season, which was very odd, but got better and better as the season went along, and that offensive line continues to wear on people. They've got a trio of good running backs. They've got, I think, 2, maybe 3 NFL wide receivers on that team as well. And they play really sound football on defense. Like, they've got a really solid defense with a couple of pretty good players in Winfield, and then Coughlin, I think, is the pass rusher that they have. So yes, they are for real, and they're definitely buying into what PJ Fleck is selling. It's a team that's really built for November and built for playing and winning games in the Big Ten.
Make a case for them to crack the playoff 4. Because, obviously, the schedule is, fairly easy the rest of the way? They don't have any other toughies going forward until the Big Ten Championship?
Well, no, actually it's the other way. So they started the season with some real, like shockingly close games against bad opponents, and they hadn't played anybody until this Penn State game. And they actually they were finishing with Penn State, Iowa, and Wisconsin to finish their season. So if they can, those are tough teams. Not only are they're tough, but they're also physical teams that you don't want to be playing Iowa and Wisconsin in back-to-back weeks. That's pretty difficult, but they're built to be able to do that. If Minnesota can beat both of those teams, they'll put themselves in position to be in that 4, especially because they'll get their shot at Ohio State in the conference championship, and that'll be the ultimate moment where if they're undefeated and Ohio State is undefeated, I think the winner of that game has to go in.
Absolutely.
Like, if Minnesota wins that game, they have to be in the 4, and you can't keep them out of there. The real interesting question to me would be, if Minnesota were to beat Ohio State and say a close game, should Ohio State still have a chance to get into the playoff 4 as well? Like, that's going to be an interesting debate too.
I would lean no, because of the fact that the schedule up to that point has been relatively easy. I guess if you want to say Michigan's still pretty good to some degree, yeah. I guess they pay Penn State. They beat Penn State. That's tough. But Minnesota, again, you played out who has a better resume between Alabama and Ohio State. Assuming that plays out, Alabama can say, well, we lost to LSU, the number 1 team in the country.
But then you could also, Ohio State in that case would be able to say we lost to Minnesota, who was probably at 5 at that point. Because if they win, they continue to win. They should be at like 5 or even 4 by the Big Ten championship game. So that would be chaos. So now I'm rooting for that, because I'm rooting for chaos. I'm always rooting for chaos when we get to the end of the season.
Okay, so that being said, on Tuesday, we're 48 hours from the committee doing the next playoff rankings. On Tuesday, what do you think it will look like?
I think you'll end up with LSU at 1 now, because they just beat Bama, Ohio State 2, And then I guess Clemson has to move up to 3, but who's going to be that 4th team? Because do you leave Bama in that spot? You can't move Georgia up there. Like Oregon, could they be there? What do you do with Minnesota, who started out at 17, right, in the first one? Like, are they going to jump all the way from 17 to 4 from beating Penn State, who was previously 4? Like, that 4th spot is going to be really interesting to see what they do. My guess is they're going to leave it at Bama.
Yeah, I got a feeling. I got a feeling. But again, the committee always does this every year. Like, especially in the early weeks of this stuff. Like, the shocking thing this week was Clemson was not in the top 4, which shouldn't be too shocking considering how much they've been playing anybody worth a damn, number one, and they only lost North Carolina a couple weeks ago. So first off,
Right.
they always give you a little bit of shock value. And I think they do that on purpose, just for the conversation's sake, to put more hype toward these games the week after the upcoming week. So it wouldn't shock me. I'm not saying it's going to happen, and it should happen, but it wouldn't shock me if they decide, well, gee, the number 4 team in the country had them in there, and now they lost. So let's put that team in there. If Minnesota's number 4, it would not shock me.
It wouldn't. It would surprise me. Shock is too strong. It would surprise me only because they would be jumping up 13 spots or something like that in 1 week, even with a really quality win. But they need to move up. Regardless, they need to be in that top grouping, like the top 6 or 7.
Top 6, at least, yeah, top 6, yeah.
Yeah, they need to be top 6 after this. And then they can continue, they just need to continue to take care of their business, beat Iowa, beat Wisconsin, and then take their swing at Ohio State to show if they really belong. I don't think they match up all that well with Ohio State,
right.
But we'll see when we get to that. But yeah, Minnesota should be in the top 7 at least.
Okay, cool. All right, couple of things to talk about you before you go. Deion Sanders is rumored to be the next, be in the conversation, be the next Florida State head coach. First off, 2-part question: were you shocked that Tag got fired so soon, based, in the middle of the year? And 2, Deion Sanders, really?
Yeah. Okay. So the first part, no, I wasn't shocked that Tag got fired so soon. One, they just looked bad, right? They just.
Oh, I know. I'm an old fan. I see what
I know. It's one thing to lose games as you're building the program. It's another thing to just be completely disorganized and look like you have no direction at all, right? And that's where he was kind of trending. So I understood that. The Deion Sanders thing, come on, man, stop it. That doesn't need to be a thing. You need to, Florida State needs to find, I think, and it's funny because some of this Willie Taggart actually had, a young, energetic coach that can come in there and is still disciplined, but also will get recruiting fired up. Because if you could really get that going down there in Florida, as you know, you've got so much talent, you just got to put your name on it, right? So if they can do that, you can beat back. But Deion Sanders is not the way. You can't do that. This isn't a school that should be taking that type of risk.
I was saying the same thing too. Also, the only thing you can sell me on is a recruiting factor. Would he be committed to this? Number one, and what do we have to go on? He coached some Trinity school down here in Florida for a little while, and there was some issues there too. Even at that time, I'm supposedly. I don't want to be. I'm the kind of guy. I don't want to jump on things that it's a bad idea. It's always a bad idea till it's actually a bad idea. But
right.
I just don't see in my mind. And I love Deion Sanders for the record. He's the reason I became an old fan in the first place. I just don't see Deion Sanders head coach Florida State right now anyway. Maybe in 10 years we can talk me into that, but right now, no. I just can't see it.
I think that you hit on something really interesting, which is, would he be willing to do the work? And this is not a knock on him. This would be my concern on anyone in this position that has never really been a major college football coach. The amount of work that goes into that, these long hours that guys put in and all that. Whether he would really be willing to make that lifestyle adjustment would be fascinating. I just don't see it happening. Because even in the case of, say, Herm Edwards out at Arizona State, we didn't know whether or not he could coach college football, but we knew that he had been a successful head coach to some degree in the NFL and had some experience in running a program like
Absolutely,
that.
Yeah.
So you knew that the work part of it was not a real concern. It was just whether or not he would be able to relate to players, and actually that's going much better than anyone thought. But I just don't see that same thing for Deion.
Yeah, I don't want to sound judgmental, but I can't get past that point. Like, are you gonna be committed to do the grind? Because it's not just X's and O's and sidelines. There's recruiting. There's this. There's a lot of things that go into that. So I don't know. We'll see. Maybe in a couple of years, we'll see what happens. Also, the news today that dropped was Chad Morris got fired from Arkansas. Less than 2 years, 4-18 record there. This is gonna be shocking. Obviously, they're terrible with them.
Yeah, they're bad, and they were. It was funny. We were, as a staff at Hill Varsity, we were talking about this yesterday as we were all kind of watching games, and I saw a clip of their game as they were losing to Western Kentucky, I think that was, with the stands being half empty. It was the second week in a row that they set a new low for attendance since they renovated the stadium. Like, those are the types of things that end up getting you fired in the middle of a season. Like, it just wasn't going well. And I'm not surprised that he got fired based on how it was going. I am surprised on how badly this went for him down there at Arkansas, because Chad Morris, was a really good offensive mind. Obviously did really well out at Clemson with Dabo Swinney as an offensive coordinator. And they were just so bad at Arkansas. Now, the offense wasn't good. So, like, that ends up dinging him when he goes to say step down to be an offensive coordinator somewhere else, to maybe do like the guy at LSU did, kind of save their offense. And now that guy's a hot name, right? Could Chad Morris do that now that his offense was proven to be so bad out at Arkansas? Like, I'll be curious to see where he ends up, but they had to make a move because things were just pathetic down there.
Right. All right, let you go. Explain to the folks here what Hail Varsity is about.
Yeah, so basically Hail Varsity covers all Nebraska sports. So it's all I cover recruiting, football recruiting. I'm the recruiting analyst there,
right.
But we also cover football on a daily basis. Basketball, volleyball is huge for us. Our volleyball team is so dominant. Baseball, everything Nebraska athletics, we cover over at HailVarsity.com in the magazine.
So strictly just it's not radio, podcast, and that. It's just strictly writing.
No, we do have a Hill Varsity radio show that airs Monday through Friday on ESPN Radio here in Lincoln. You can stream it on our website as well. We also have a podcast that comes out every Friday called the Varsity Club Podcast, hosted by Derek Peterson. It's really good. He does a nice job of both doing kind of hot topics around the sport, but then also getting opponent previews. He has someone on each week for the opposing team view, so you can get a good information bit on what's happening with them as well.
I'll leave you alone a bunch of beers because they're straight trash. But your Lakers, how you feeling with your Lakers?
Hey, now we can talk about something happy. We brought up the Lakers,
and you beat my boys on Friday too, for the record. Now, granted, 3-4 nights, second half back to back, but it's okay. We're doing well too. So.
Yeah, it's a tough spot to be in a back-to-back and play the Lakers on that second half of the back-to-back.
I agree.
The way that the Lakers play, that's not a good spot for y'all. But no, very encouraged by how things have started for them. Big surprise of the year being that Dwight Howard has actually bought in to what his role is. It is funny though, because
wait, I'm not though. I'm not. I've been saying.
Are you not? Really?
No, I'm not. Because one thing you can say about Dwight, even with his issues, quote unquote, okay. Wherever he goes, he's still productive. Now,
actually, that is true. That's true. He is productive. He's a locker room cancer, but he has been productive. Yeah, that's true. Because I think that people were surprised. People were surprised when they saw what his numbers were. Was it Charlotte was the last stop before this?
Well, Washington, I think,
where he still was
briefly.
Yeah, he was still putting up double-digit rebounds. He's lost a step, but he is still an explosive athlete. Like, you can still see that. It's not quite Orlando Dwight, but he's definitely still a plus athlete out there.
Could he at least cut that damn hair though? I hate that hairstyle.
Yeah, man, something's gotta happen with that hair, and he's number 39, and that looks weird. Like the whole packaging is.
Well, you know why though? I think it was 39 is because a lot of people thought he wouldn't last past December. I mean, at this point, that's almost a shoo-in, right? Barring anything goes on in the locker room, I guess it's a shoo-in that he'll pass this December.
Yeah, based on what's happened, yeah, and he looks like he looks like he's having fun, like the whole team does. Like, what's you know this, having followed LeBron down with the Heat, like it's a big deal. It shouldn't be, but it's a big deal when LeBron actually likes the team that he's playing on. And those guys are having a lot of fun. He likes his team. It's very helpful. You see, it's the exact opposite of what you saw last year when you saw him sitting at the end of the bench by himself and you knew he wanted all those young guys gone. No, they're a really good team. We haven't even mentioned the fact that Anthony Davis has played pretty well. He has not played as well as he could have so far. So once he heats up, like, it's going to be a problem for real.
Are you ever going to return to radio?
Probably not.
You'll miss radio?
Coming up. Sometimes, mostly the way that I miss it is because you get to talk about so many different things, and I do like having kind of that daily pulse and kind of seeing, what's going on outside of just Nebraska football. But I also don't, on the same hand, I don't miss the complete grind that it is at times as well.
It is a grind. It is a grind. That's why podcasting is more popular, especially too, because it's not like you have to be there 3-4 hours a day trying to find content for this segment. Right. This segment, I totally get it, man. Trust me, I totally get it.
Yeah. So maybe I have thought about one day doing a podcast. So we'll see.
You should.
If I do that, maybe the start of next season, bust that out.
You should, man. Anyway, you can follow Greg on Twitter, of course, at GregSmithHV, hillversity.com. Greg. A1 minute of the year. It would be probably a couple of weeks before I check with you again.
All right, man. It sounds good.
All right, brother. You take it easy, all right?